Hey everybody, it's Matthew. Welcome back to the channel. Now I know this is not the video I said was going to be out this week, but I had some things with doing the solo for that video. I had to correct some things with it because I did the wrong thing in the walkthrough. But anyway, let's get into this video here. We're going to talk about the idea of Tonewood today and what that means for the electric guitar and how that maybe affects your decision for what guitar to buy. Now, we all know the idea of Tonewood, which is that specific types of wood will give you certain tones and differences in tone. And that is an interesting idea, which of course is not necessarily a myth, because we know acoustic guitars are always built with different materials sometimes, and they do noticeably sound different. Of course, because of the mechanism by which an acoustic guitar works. It takes the vibration that is caused by the strings and it goes into the body of the guitar and bounces around in there and shakes around and then comes out back through the sound hole and projects outward. So there's a lot of physical interaction with the guitar itself that's happening to create the sound, because without the resonance in the sound hole, you don't get any sound, which means that that interaction with the wood is going to affect the tone that comes out from that instrument. There's not really a debate on that. Everyone knows that that does in fact change a little bit of the tone of an acoustic guitar, generally by absorbing certain frequencies, because woods interact differently. And we should talk about why maybe wood does that. So the main reasons why different woods can have a different sound when they vibrate is mostly because of density and water content. Now, the density varies by species of tree, of course. Some trees have more dense wood and densely packed fibers. Some have less densely packed fibers. So, which is why something like walnut, which is very dense, you would expect it to make very little sound and to have a pretty deep kind of sound. It's also ineffective for guitars because it's just too heavy. Stuff like maple is a lot less dense. Therefore, it changes how it resonates and generates maybe a little bit brighter of a sound because there's not as much material that is being passed through it. Of course, water content also affects that in a similar way, because water refracts sound and it can cause it to dissipate or change the quality of it as it passes through, which we're familiar with that if you've ever, tried to talk underwater, which a lot of us have. If you've ever been in a pool as a kid or whatever, you've done that kind of thing. And so you can tell that the sound obviously changes and it has much less volume when you're, trying to project it through water. But anyway, what does that mean for the electric guitar though? Well, some of you might be familiar with the famous video that Paul Reed Smith made at, I don't remember what event it was, but he brought out a little cart with some hammers and he had 4 different types of wood on it. And he took a little hammer and hit each one, and they sounded different. However, the issue with his test is the context in which he is performing that to make a point. It's just pieces of wood sitting on a thing, and the sound is being projected out into the air from the wood itself, vibrating and generating a sound. The problem is electric guitar does not function in that way, so he didn't really prove anything with his test that we didn't already know about what the properties of wood and how it interacts with sound. As we know with the electric guitar, it does not function the same way as acoustic guitar. It is not using the physical movement of the instrument itself to project a sound. Rather, with electric guitar, you have pickups which generate a small magnetic field within them, and when you hit a string, that vibration and amplitude of that will disrupt that magnetic field by a specific ratio, and then that disruption will be sent through the guitar and interpreted into the amp, and then it will produce the note that was played on the guitar. So it's a more closed system that relies specifically on magnetic field changes and electronics to interpret its sound, rather than the physical movement of the instrument itself. The wood itself does not necessarily contribute heavily to the sound that is being created within the guitar. I mean, some people will say you can have sympathetic vibration, you can have this, you can have that, but is that really going to be that strong when the pickups are reading mostly the physical movement of the string and not interpreting any other information besides that? That's kind of the question with it. And it's not necessarily that maybe that sympathetic vibration may not have an effect, but it may not be noticeable to the point that electric guitars of different materials are going to have a noticeably different sound, especially when you start adding more gain and other things like that from the amp or pedals that influence the tone or the sound as well. A lot of that will just get covered up by everything else that's happening within the signal chain. Which begs the question, is Tonewood really important enough with electric guitars that you should spend more money on better wood to get a better tone? And that's always been a big sticking point. Can you tell a big enough difference that your purchase decision is going to be dictated by the material that the instrument is made out of? Now, when you break it down to really small details, it kind of seems a little bit ridiculous to spend extra money on a guitar because it might sound better because of the material that it's constructed from. So it's like, do you really want to spend hundreds of more dollars when this guitar that's made out of alder may just be just as good as the one that's made out of mahogany? You know, that's kind of the thing. And really, the cost of it should be decided by the rarity of the wood, because obviously more exotic woods are going to be more expensive because they're harder to source and all that. They may also aesthetically have a difference that makes them more desirable than something that's really plain like swamp ash. So, I mean, to that end, it's up to you. If you want to spend more money on like a PRS wood library that's really fancy and looks really nice, just because it looks really nice and it feels nice to play, I mean, you know, go for it. Spend your money. But if you're doing it because of a tonal advantage, you might want to reevaluate what you're doing with that and what your priorities actually are with the instrument you're deciding to purchase. Do you want a guitar that actually just plays better? Or do you want one that may or may not sound better because the material is different? And at the end of the day, are you going to notice in the context of you playing it, or especially playing it within a band, a difference that's going to actually matter at all? Personally, I don't think it makes a big enough difference that you should change your purchasing decision. You know, the decision to buy an instrument should again come down to how it feels, how it makes you feel to play or inspires you. And also, of course, budgetary constraints, because we've all got budgets, you know. Not everybody can afford a really expensive guitar, so you have to take those things into account. But anyway, the debate will still rage. I tried to be really objective here and not call out anybody for doing anything weird in the name of Tonewood or something like that. And that being said, hopefully people will take this video not too seriously or get offended by it. No reason to. We're just talking here, having a little bit of a discussion about it. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little discussion about Tonewood and how it works, and how maybe it shouldn't be the main, or it shouldn't be a big priority with your guitar purchases. Like and subscribe. Of course, leave a comment down below if you want. As always, click the bell so that you know when a new video is going to be out. And with that, guys, I will see you next time for another video. Have a good one.